Hello everyone, welcome to this week's collective worship with me, Canon Beverley. This week we've got a very special national celebration. On Friday, everyone's got the day off because we're remembering that VE Day happened 75 years ago. VE Day? That was before you were born. It was before I was born. And before your teachers were born. VE stands for Victory in Europe, and it was a signal that a terrible war, the Second World War, was nearly over. For the people that lived in our country, it meant that there was not going to be any more danger of bombs coming over them every day. That they would be able to live much more freely than they had before. And so it was a day of great celebration. I want to tell you a story about this little boy. Here he is. This is Michael, and this is Michael's brother David. On VE Day, Michael was 4 3/4 years old. About the same age of those of you who are in reception class. Michael was very excited. For the whole of Michael's life, all he could remember was his country being at war. His very first memory was of being carried into a special place where he was being kept safe from bombs that were coming down. But now those bombs weren't going to come. Now they could celebrate that at night time they didn't have to keep the lights off, and at night time they'd be able to see the stars, because Michael could only remember at night time the sky being full of searchlights. So he hadn't really got to see the stars. At night, searchlights looking for enemy planes. But now those were gone. They had a fabulous celebration. In Michael's village, they went to the village green and they had a lovely tea. Cheers! They had sports and games too. Michael's dad took part in a game where they had to use their pitchforks and try and throw hay bales as far as they could. And all the men had a big tug of war. They took it very seriously. There was also a competition where you could win a pig. And Michael's dad won the pig. That was brilliant because that pig would provide food for the family for months to come. And that was important because although VE Day was the most amazing celebration and the war was over, lots of the effects of the way they'd had to live were going to carry on for a long time. Food was available then on rations. You couldn't just buy as many eggs as you wanted. You could only have the amount that you were rationed to have. On the day of the tea party, the ladies of the village shared their eggs together to make the cakes for the party. That rationing carried on after the war for another 7 years. Michael was a big boy before rationing stopped. Sometimes when we celebrate something coming to an end, it's very sudden, like the war being over. But other things come to an end very slowly, and there are changes that affect you for a long time. Like whether or not you could easily buy eggs or cheese or other important things after that war. In the evening on VE Day, Michael was very excited because in the village they had a bonfire. Now Michael had never seen a bonfire before because they weren't allowed to light fires like that at night time during the war, because the enemy bombers would have been able to see the light of the fire and would have used that as an excuse to drop a bomb. But now they could have a big bonfire, a big party around it, a big sing-along with the village. And there were fireworks too. It was very, very exciting for little Michael. For years afterwards, whenever there was a bonfire, and do you remember when we normally have bonfires? Yes, that's right, we normally have them in November, don't we, on bonfire night. But in Michael's mind, bonfires were always associated with the trees being green and with chestnut trees, or conker trees as he's called them, having these lovely flowers on them. Do you see these beautiful flowers? Now you only get these flowers on a horse chestnut tree at the end of April and in early May. But in Michael's mind, bonfires meant candles, candle flowers on chestnut trees, because he associated bonfires with the first one he experienced on VE Day. It was a very special celebration, a night Michael would never forget. He's looking forward to celebrating the 75th anniversary this year of that party on VE Day. Perhaps he'll have tea in his front garden with his neighbours. Maybe some of you will do the same thing. Maybe I'll give him a call, because if you haven't already guessed, little Michael is my dad. I hope you enjoy celebrating VE Day. And perhaps as we celebrate, you'll remember that just like for little Michael, some of those changes come straight away, and some of them will take a long time to change. I wonder what about what we're doing now, as we avoid the coronavirus, will change straight away when the lockdown ends. What would you like to change? I wonder what will take a long time to change, or maybe we won't want to change it at all, like using our cars less. Can you tell Mummy and Daddy to make less trips out in their car at the end of all of this? I'm going to say a prayer. If you agree with praying and you agree with my prayer, you can say Amen at the end. Dear God, thank you for the excitement of VE Day. Thank you that for many people that war was over. We pray today for people who are still living in places of war. May there be peace there too. We pray with thanksgiving for the soldiers and the people who defended our country in that war. And we pray for ourselves in these days of coronavirus, that you will carry on protecting us, keeping the NHS safe, healing the people who've caught the virus, and that we will find a way to celebrate the end of it, just like they did on VE Day. Amen. Bye-bye everyone. See you again soon. Bye-bye.